Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Joe Davich, and I'm the Executive Director here at the Georgia Center for the Book. On behalf of the Georgia Center for the Book, DeKalb County Public Library, and Poetry Atlanta presents, welcome to the 19th Annual Voices Carry Poetry Reading. We're so glad to have this lineup of poets with us tonight. It's been curated by Collin Kelley, who's the editor of Arts Atlanta magazine. He's been such a great friend to the Georgia Center for the Book, serving as our advisory council member. He's also a poet and an author himself, notably of the Venus trilogy of books, and we are so pleased to have him join us this evening. After our poets speak this evening, if you'd like to stay around and ask questions, we do invite you to do so. You can do that by using the Q&A feature. You'll see the Q&A button at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on your device. Feel free to type your question in there, and we'll make sure we answer it in turn. Also, you can activate the closed captioning by clicking the CC button at the top or bottom of your screen, and then a box will pop up and you can maximize or minimize the text depending on your needs. Once again, thank you so much for joining this evening. And to kick off the program tonight and to introduce our poets, please join me to welcome Collin Kelley. Collin?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us, as Joe said, for the 19th annual Voices Carry reading. We have a great lineup tonight, and I'd like to thank Georgia Center for the Book, as always, for being our host. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce our readers for the evening, and then they will come on and they're going to just read in the order that I introduce them. And then right before we start, I'm going to read a poem to kick us off so they don't have to go first. So first up tonight, we have award-winning poet Julie E. Bloemeke, who is the author of the award-winning collection Slide to Unlock. And we have Rupert Fike, who is the author of Lotus Buffet, his poetry collection Lotus Buffet, and also the nonfiction Voices from the Farm. And then we also have Theresa Davis, who is my pressmate at Sibling Rivalry Press, and she has two fantastic collections, Drowned and After This We Go Dark. And then we will close out with the great Cecilia Woloch, who has more awards than I can possibly tell you about, but she's the author of some incredible collections, Sigan, Late, Carpathia, all wonderful work. So I look forward to you hearing from them momentarily, but I am going to kick things off here with a new poem to get started, and then we'll have Julie Bloemeke come on. So this poem is called Every Time We Say Goodbye, and it is dedicated to the British film director Derek Jarman. The church door slams behind me with a ferocity only God could muster. Now he's got me inside 12th century walls, with the dead under my feet and history swirling in the rafters. I am nothing, a speck of dust passing through, a pilgrim visiting the heretic in the cemetery. Derek is out there, his slate black headstone a monolith, no date or birth or of birth or death, only the engraved flourish of his own signature. Nothing else is necessary. I saw you before I knew your work, flickering in childhood home movies on Annie Lennox's face as she lamented you with Cole Porter. You were supposed to direct the music video, but were too ill. So instead, you became the star. I was at a party and it was background music while Damien begged me for sex despite his diagnosis, condoms spilling from his pockets like gold coins. Fuck me while I'm still pretty, he begged. And then Annie and that song again, serenading Edward II in Gaveston as they part while Christopher holds my hand in the dark. Uncle Terry and his lover Jeff beside us, already knowing their fate, tucked into each other, becoming shadows of their former selves, singing quietly, every time we say goodbye, I die a little. Kneeling in old Romney churchyard, 10,000 days in between, I hum the song and trace your name, Derek, make you touchstone and totem to everyone I've lost. And now, here's Julie Bloemeke.
Oh, well, Collin, thank you so much. Thank you to Joe and Allie at Georgia Center for the Book, and thank you for everyone being here tonight to spend a little time with poetry. One of the things I've always loved about Voices Carry is getting to hear new poems that Atlanta area poets are working on. And so I think this might have been the first time I heard that poem from Collin. So that's a spectacular treat. So I am going to jump right in. I have 5 poems, and I'm actually going to quote Theresa Davis here, who's reading tonight, because I'm going to be reading some new shit, as she likes to say. But I start off with something a little fun. So in my graduate school days, we used to joke about poetry workshops in the fall, because that's when all the leaves are falling in poetry workshops. So I'm going to kick off with a poem about a tree, but it's not about fall. And this was in the spring issue of Nimrod's Body Language. When the leaves come to hide me in late spring, I climb. By then, song cured, I am curled under ripe petals. Saucer magnolia, a tree whose flowers bloomed my mouth. High up in the gospel branches, I open before the words collapse onto paper. Now you know damn well I went to sky. Lord, yes, I did. Scraped my body up good to get as tall as climb allowed, past shouts of, get your ass down, you'll break your neck. But see, my hands rise straight up through the leaves until they have grabbed the light by its beam. Know my hair, askew as an urchin's, and my heart blistered open in spring's sudden heat. I claim the words from the deep end of my throat. They language sear, they scar and play in my mouth, my holy, ravenous mouth that only wants to be heard but cannot reconcile ears. I am starbait, coming down not for night, but only for hunger and anger which takes me from my bliss. Too much need, the body sometimes. I never fall. I never break a thing. But still the neighbors will argue there was a cast, a fracture. Still they will say, I am forbidden. And still, fruit heavy, I climb, back up to sit beyond their sight, tune in as they whisper hisses about the girl I was supposed to be. My white socks bloodied with mud, my shirt off, my chest bared to the sun. Listen, the petals say, girl, you always knew. I'm also going to read a poem, and I really enjoy being able to do this in readings because there's such an importance of tenacity and persistence in submitting. And this is a poem that I think I've been submitting for almost 5 years, and it will be in the next issue of Opt West. This is After Broken Arrow Trail. The day you took me on the hike, fanged stones, cactus spikes, bird beaks, everything pointed. We walked to the trail where you ended your marriage with her. But more importantly, you said, with God. Did you take me there for baptism, proof? I expected to hold you, weeping. But it was the desert. It's too easy to say. It is all a metaphor. The way you retract your hand when I reach for you. The word stung hovers everywhere, under lizard scales, silent on your parched lips, fissured into denim cracked with dust, bleached into the needles pricking back the sun. I always thought of our coupling as water. The salt stick of oceans, the cool of glacial lakes, but now you tell me it is too cold to swim. Cutting your feet on the rocks in Mexico, me wrapping them with a towel, your head turned from the sunset, still denying the tide. And this is a shorter one, and it twists and twists again, so I hope you listen closely. This is a brand new one, birthday present. At 45, I should have known better. He talks excitedly to me on the phone, unwraps the gift I left, house gleaming with the clean we executed together. How we evacuated spiders, dust, the ephemera he kept in boxes I encouraged him to let go. And the way he promised, once again, it was ever and only me, us kissing raw at the airport. And the girl, younger than his college-aged daughter, who he told to be silent, isn't. He claims she's the TV. But I heard her call out, Mrs. Everyone knows the ending before I do. She looks to him, poised to lick, traces her finger around the edge of the frosting. She's convinced he's talking to his mother, puts that sweet, celebratory finger in her mouth, and smiles. And two more. And I'm really excited to read this one tonight because I worked on this after Collin and I went to the Getty Museum for the first time in 2017. And it's now out in the most recent issue of South Florida Poetry Journal. It's an ekphrastic poem, so written in response to art. And in this particular case, it's Renoir. So the title is After the Promenade, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, 1876. The dress could be a winter storm, violent in its snow, the blue ribbon an invasion of sky, the blots of green and branch tangling against the silks, another subterfuge, another attempt to hold. It is the forest in summer. Renoir did not name this. Someone suggested the promenade, an odd choice for a dense wood, not an open-air stroll, river-hungry with space and other eyes. A man leads her by the hand, imploring the bark to part with his other set of fingers. Are we to think such seasonal lovers are willing an escape? I can't help the downed thunder of her eyes, the tight fracture of her lips, her gaze more concerned with hem than with copes confined. Was it his idea to elicit off the path? Was this coyness a game of no she could not bear to free from her throat? I can only see another storm of white. Or cat interruption. I can only see another storm of white, this one at his neck, as if to strangle, as if part of her winter spilled over, hoping his words were, stop here. Believe the ice and swirl of this dress, the way she grips it, an attempt to keep something, anything, pristine. And I'm going to end on another newer poem. And this one is called Pool. And thank you once again, Collin, for inviting us all to Voices Carry today. I did not want to lose this. Him leaning over the pool table as he did in high school, sizing up the stripes and solids, the intimate way he slides the cue with gentle precision, the bridge between thumb and first finger, the way he rounds out those fabulous jeans, and the heavy pewter of the Harley belt buckle I gave him, honor worn, striking hip music metallic as he bends against the diamonds, and him in those motorcycle boots, heavy on black leather, and the unexpected shock of a crisp shirt thwarting the expectation. He asks me to break, smiling, the intention of his eyes and the way my heart pockets itself when I know he will bank the first shot, which he does, and the way he comes to me, encircles his arm around my waist, sings in my ear not just any lyric, but one he makes ours. Only you can take me to where the streets have no name. And as he sways with me, his body is our covenant for a moment, you and me and no other. But he parts back to that swagger, and I see it better now, the glare of it as he lines up the shot. It's something about his lean and angle, something about how his eyes dart and fix, as if his stance is trying to confirm what I already know, this something he does not even know about himself. He does not carry his body like a faithful man. And this is when I feel the beginning of our end, denying my own familiar sick thrum, convincing myself anxiety is not intuition. He calls it 6-ball, corner pocket, striking one against the other. Green pops back from the drop, a hard miss. This loss causes something in me to breathe, to say, see, maybe I've got it all wrong. And I dance over to kiss him, reveling in the scratch, maybe a sign, and start sass about my turn. I am a novice. I already know I will choke. But for now, he is here to say, can I show you? To place his hands over mine as if in benediction. Be not afraid. His body curving over mine like the beginning of parentheses. The all I pray we will write, and the letters I know we've already racked and struck from the page.
Thanks, Julie. That was awesome. I love to hear your new stuff. My name is Rupert Fike, and I'm really happy to see all you Zoomers out there just carving out some time to hang out with us tonight. I'm going to do 4 poems. The first one is called At the Sidewalk Bistro. We're out in a potted ficus tree, sipping crafty cocktails with breezy names. A next table black lab yelping while struggling to get up. Hip dysplasia, I say, late stage, like I'm a vet or something. Kathy says everybody in her small town knew to call Carl Sabin whenever a dog had to be put down. And he would just show up with a gun, I ask? Basically, Kathy says, fathers didn't want to do it. Wow, married so long and I've never heard this one. But we rarely drink gin, so maybe that's it. I start to ask if this killer's number was written on the wall, except some skateboard kids are clattering past, doing that up and down thing off concrete planters until the hostess goes out to run them off. The patio is suddenly quiet without their click clacks. The moment for more Carl Sabin questions passed, because now it would seem like prying. Kathy averse to thinking of her town as Southern Gothic. I see Carl Sabin as an unkempt backroad recluse, waiting by the phone in a trailer, cleaning his 38. But no, that's B-movie fodder. He could well have been a church elder with trimmed fingernails, the quiet widower, one town's anointed ender of suffering, almost forgotten, yet still holding space in the minds of the town's grown children. He's like the ex-lover, a partner never mentioned until the night their name somehow comes up and the current lover goes, wait, now who? Who is this? Tell me about them. Anything at all. This is In the 10 items or fewer line, I'm standing behind a woman with a barcode tattoo on her neck. The inkwork's so precise, I'm warning the cashier to reach over and scan it, see if she's in the system. Or maybe her lines have dystopic intent. Maybe they're stamping her as fertile stock, born 1998, all chromosomes intact. And I think that's what I'm going with, that this is more Atwoodian than Orwellian. She's a pre-approved vessel for preferred offspring. Her tat, a rage against the machine we're all caught up in. Each of us tracked like a chipped pet, yet thinking we're free as some lovesick, hardy shepherd. Not her, though. Look, she's announcing, look, I've dehumanized myself before they could get to me. Wake up, doomcoffs. And I do appreciate her rebel stance, but I'm fairly happy in my pastoral dream, even though I don't have sheep or a meadow. And if the big guy wants to ogle me, I say let it. There's only so many outrages we can war with. But now I'm forgetting to put my items up on the belt. The shopper's behind me, restless, wanting me to at least start touching my groceries like a normal person, instead of continuing to stare at the woman's neck. She's data and clothes. She causes trouble wherever she goes. She's brimming with sass and paying with cash, never leaving home without a product code. She's taken it to the streets. She's taken it to the grave. So I see a lot of you in the audience lived with me because I spent like 10 years of my life, my wife's life, Kathy, on the farm in Tennessee, where it was like a bunch of Haight-Ashbury hippies basically drove to Tennessee and started a farm. You know, I'm talking about between 1,000 and 2,000, these type of people, but it started out with 300 people. So this is just a scene from that. It's from a collection I'm trying to get published, but we will see. Your father is sober. This is how my mother's letter begins. Her prim hand adding, isn't that something? When she notes that his AA group meets in the same church basement my scout troop had used the winter I had such a terrible time with knots. My father, sober. The news somehow undigestible. His newfound civility a bit late for this boy who's now a man 3 states distant on a scrub oak ridge digging outhouses. The letter handed to me by our mail lady Desiree, making her rounds on Belle, an aging Belgian mare we'd bought from a nearby Amish family, the Yoders. Desiree noting the way my face changed as I read the letter, the mail lady wanting my news. She was a bit of a gossip, but no one cared. Today, though, I was wary of my drunk daddy history getting passed around to all my communards, the ones who I assumed had almost perfect childhoods. Desiree wanted my story, pulling back on the reins. Whoa now, easy girl, whoa now. But Belle had become twitchy, impatient to get back to the barn and her new treat, sweet feed, molasses-infused oats, just the latest way we'd found to spoil her, same as we never had her harnessed and out in the fields by 7, the way the Yoders had worked her each day until we arrived. Academic dropouts with little business owning work animals. We were bohemians too drunk on our own self-image as noble agrarians to actually be noble agrarians. The image of a young woman on horseback delivering our mail more important to us than having Belle scratch weeds off our cabbage rows. Desiree still after my story, still going, whoa girl, back boy, oh yeah, easy now. Belle still wanting to turn around, go get fed. It was a war of wills. Belle almost dancing now, her weight churning the wet ground to mush. This a casual power that reminded me of the damage those hooves could do to human feet. In this case, my feet. And so I backed away, not so much for safety, but to avoid Desiree's leading questions as I read and reread My mother's last line, your father, we're all so proud. And I'm going to finish up with a certified 60s poem. In the year of our Lord, 1965, my country was at war. But my college roommate and I decided to drive down from Athens to Macon for a double date at Wesleyan, a conservative women's school that had somehow booked Major Lance with his touring band, almost favorable omen for a makeout session. Soul music chose the aphrodisiac of that era, shows where doing the monkey led to slow dancing, wandering hands, lower body contact. But on this night, there would be none of that, since two elderly ladies stood just below the stage. It was the dean of women and the dean of no sex, their scowls nonstop sweeping across us like searchlights over a prison yard at night. We would remain seated. None of their girls would be touched, monkeyed with, or slow danced tonight. Never mind the sacrifices we had made to get here, with finals all next week. Finals we should have stayed in our dorm to study for, because the failure of even one course meant the loss of your student deferment and a near certain tour in Vietnam. But no, we had driven deep into a winter night down US 441 in a bone-rattling VW Bug with no heater and bad wipers that skidded across a sleeting drizzle trying to freeze. All those sacrifices we had made to get to a dance where there was to be no dancing. We hated those old women. Our dates feared them. And it has only recently occurred to me that those elderly women who so briefly intersected my life must have been born around 1890, which means their grandfathers. No, wait, this means their fathers, the men who conceived the grumpy deans. Those men might well have fought for the right to own other humans. Those deans' fathers might well have owned human beings themselves. And since you're hearing this story from me tonight, and since I'm now 76 and all this happened in my lifetime, that puts you in my life's lineage, and that is how close we all still are to slavery. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Theresa Davis.
Hello. That was awesome, Rupert. Yay. Can y'all hear me? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to start. I'm going to be reading a couple of pieces from my collection that was supposed to come out in 2020, but we all know what happened in 2020. Let's not talk about it. Let's just hug ourselves in our hearts, and we are here. This piece is called On Marriage. When you spoke of marriage, I did not flinch. I wore no frown, I just listened. Part of me felt this a test, but I listened while you painted fairy tale images of faraway places, a porch swing, no neighbors for miles, just you, me, and a dog. I didn't interrupt. I never let you see the shadow of doubt, but I wondered, how could you dream of marriage living in a closet? That may as well be a coffin in the Georgia clay, the dirt. You speak of marriage, your love is a secret best shared in dark rooms. If anyone questions you if anyone questions your first line of defense is shake a key and lie, a rattle, regret, slam shut the door, lock down emotions and pretend we do not exist. How can you want to marry someone you cannot show off on your arm, in your arm, someone you are afraid to kiss with the lights on? How can you see forever and close yourself out from the world at the same time? You spoke of marriage, lover. In the moment, I did not flinch. I wore no frown, I just listened. Part of me felt this a test. I mean, how can you speak of marriage when we both know there is no room in your closet, a place I would never choose? So that's that one. Thank y'all for listening. Snap. I like it. And this is called The Vigil Before the Internment. This is also from Dirt. The day after the air stopped working, dead screens, team spirit, arms wrapped exactly as I found them, hands tucked into hymns, palms empty, moving all around, a soundtrack of silence, a variable with no value, multiplied by itself, solutions hanging, a backdrop of unsent prayers and timelines with unwanted guests. The hope inside all that sadness, the years peeling a shedding of skin, leaves leaping to their death flashes of orange and red. I was always holding the camera, never in the picture. A stinging ocean swims up my throat, collapses my lung, my feet rooted and stubborn and too stubborn to fall. The word sweetheart lost in the echo, pretense on repeat, the air so thin I forgot my name for months. The leaving makes the sugar. I remember the sweet in spring, lungs full, but the sweet left I had to let it go. Thought I was holding substance, not a clutch of lies. Clear the house, rid myself of the clutter, sweep the dirt out the door, finally eat a meal that could hold me. I have been feasting on famine, desensitized to hunger pains. The rack my body midday reminds me I am living and alive and actually starving to death. A strange circumstance, a pause in the beat and break, an apology never received or accepted, a buffet waiting my devouring. I am windswept in passion and I am so fucking tired. I have etched the words I love you into the palms of my hands to the point of infection. A hiccup and a lifeline, but I refuse to hold them up in surrender, and you don't want to know any of this. It looks too much like open wounds and bleeding out, all teeth and hair and scream trapped. Something meant to be secret or silent, even though my eyes don't hide that much. I miss swimming in summer, letting go and falling away from preconceived notions, holding myself close and others accountable, prepared to take the next step, even if it looks like falling, or love lifting, even if it's not real. I mean, it could be, right? That hit me emotionally in other places that I wasn't ready for. I threw the poem away, but I'm going to retrieve it because it's a good poem. All right. I'm going to go. Hey! I need to make signs, Joe. I need to make signs. I'm going to do this one. Yeah, I don't even know where I am. It's like I had 2 years with myself and I realized, oh shit, I like hanging out with myself. I'm good. And then I'm like, oh wait, people, you gotta like, oh, all right. And that happened. So this is a reflection. It's called Maybe. Maybe it was the one thing I never wanted from you. Maybe we moved too fast, used poor judgment, fell into something we were not ready for. Maybe it was the right thing at the right time. Your voice in my ear, the way we layered, hung on every word, the way I made you laugh from a genuine place, from a genuine place, the way you frightened, the way that frightened you. So we had a fight, of course, and it made no sense, and ended with us rocked by love again, sweat and lust in your eyes. Maybe it was the way we talked after your first time with me in daylight, exposed to God and all his angels, so right for each other. We shook our own foundations, placed our own minefields just below the dirt surface, blew ourselves apart rather than falling into love falling into the love we looked like. And maybe it was the one thing we wanted from each other, to love elastic, to stretch ourselves around the terrain of our curves, hold on for dear life, look it directly in the eyes, kiss it on the mouth, enjoy the happy we were becoming. Maybe. And maybe I'm not afraid anymore. Maybe I'm hoping you are not afraid anymore. And maybe one day, dressed in our worthy, our slick, confident skin, our switchblade smiles, our never been this happy before memories, maybe we can find each other again. Maybe it will be the only thing we've ever wanted again. Maybe. Thank y'all for listening, and prepare yourselves for the fantabulous Cecilia. Yeah.
Theresa, wow. But at one point I wanted to say, ouch, ouch. So good to see you again. So good to hear your poems.
So good to see
Ditto,
you.
Julie, Collin, Rupert. Just, I wish I could be in Atlanta with y'all. Just so many fabulous images, fabulous lines. Your father, we're all so proud. Yeah, I think I met the Dean of No Sex too. And Julie, I love that birthday gift poem so much. So I forgot, I have to read too. So 19 years, Collin. Wow. That means that the first Voices Carry we did, I guess I was 16 and you were.
I was an infant. I was a zygote. I was in utero.
Yes. So anyway, hard to believe. I'm going to read some poems from a new manuscript, which maybe is a new configuration of an older manuscript, but you know how it goes, I think. So some of them may not be new to you because I take a long time with things, but I'm calling the new manuscript Little Song for the One Afraid. So I'm going to start with a few poems from my father. Boy in the Pennsylvania coal fields, circa 1929. But who was he really, that boy in the cold dawn, whistling his way to school? Hands in his pockets, passing slag heap and mine shaft, shack after shack, his breath before him ghostly in that scrim of fog and soot. What would the man he would one day become say to that boy, but survive? He must have been hungry all the time. He must have been cold and frightened too, of the hunger and the law, his stepfather's strap, his drunken breath. What would I say to that boy, but that there is somewhere another world, and someday you'll enter it whistling still, not having forgotten the child, or his hunger, or his fear, the door you slipped through where there was no door, someone standing there, watching you go. This is called How My Father Learned Algebra. And I realized when I pulled it up tonight, well, it could as easily be called How I Learned Algebra, since I learned algebra from my father. How My Father Learned Algebra. In a prison in Virginia, circa 1949, from an old black man through a chink in the wall between two solitary cells. Hey, Ruski, the old man whispered, you teach me Russian, I'll teach you algebra. In that cell, maybe 4 by 4, my father was shackled hand and foot, and could neither sit nor stand up straight, nor could he lie down curled on the earthen floor, nor was there light. But the old man on the other side of the wall must have heard the guards taunting Kami, Ruski, and believed the younger man could teach him Russian through that wall. Although what use would Russian have been to an old black man in the Jim Crow South, or to my father, a kid from the immigrant slums of Pittsburgh? Algebra. Al-Jabr, from the Arabic meaning reunion of broken parts. But the young man, still so young that he was not my father yet, must have taught the old man Russian, and the old man taught my father algebra, and in this way, both men lived. No, I can't say if the old man lived to leave that place. Many did not. I only know my father lived, hunched in that darkness, listening, learning how to solve for X. And in this way, one man saved the other, although both of them were chained. Our Father, in the last gold light of spring, says to me, take down your hands. Says, let your sister have it if she wants nothing now. The light that stood behind him will not stand. So summer comes. So he has not stood up in years, who was the last of something once, who once swam through flames, I thought, who made a shadow like a bird. What do I want to know and can't? That what he'd said, he never said. That he'd kept his ankles covered where the chains had gnawed his skin. That he'd planted corn and melons near the creek beside the house. Then the leafy golden light behind him darkened. It was June. This is a prose poem that I actually began writing when I lived in Milledgeville, Georgia, which was a tough place for me to live. So it seemed like a very haunted place for me. And it's for the little boy who lived downstairs. Prayer for 2019. Forgive us that this is what's normal now. Children held prisoner at the border while the leader of the free world poses for photographs with criminals and pimps. Half the world is more brutal than ever, and half more fragile, and many are both. The sky is a different sky every day. One day too bitterly clear, and the next too warmly gray. One day a man is sentenced lightly for a lifetime of theft and fraud. One day a woman is sentenced to life behind bars for killing her rapist in self-defense. We're living between the breaths we take in gasps, between our fury and our despair. Forgive us for not knowing where to turn. A small girl dies in the arms of the state. A small boy stands at the door in the late afternoon, wanting someone to come out and play. This is a newer poem about riding the bus in LA, which I do. It's called Not a Prayer. When I say I love the world, do I mean the people on the bus, the ragged, the crazy, the kid in the back talking too loud on his phone? Do I mean the corner of Cochrane and Venice, patch of thin grass worn to dirt, trash can, liquor store, broken curb? Do I mean my own aging body, limping, thickening at the waist? When I say I love the world too much, do I mean the old man, his rickety walker, the driver who patiently lowers the ramp to let him ease his slow way off into the gloaming? Do I mean that? City of angels, mother of miracles, shoe on the wrong foot, hand over heart. This is one more prayer. It's prayer for 2018. And this was actually written at the home of Eve Hoffman on the Chattahoochee River, sitting in the dark, listening for that river. Prayer for 2018. Surely there was a river once, but there is no river here. Only a sound of drowning in the dark between the trees, the sound of wet, and only that. Surely there was a country that I called my country once, before the thief who would be king made other countries of us all, before the bright screens everywhere in which another country lives. But what is it anyway to live? To breathe, to act, to love, to eat. Surely there was a real earth, wild and green here, blossoming, land of milk and honey once, land of windswept plains and blood, then of shackles and of iron, and then the black smoke of its cities and the laying down of laws, under which some flourished, if you call that flourishing, and from which others would have fled had there been anywhere to flee. My country, which is cruel and which is beautiful and lost. Surely there were notes that made a song, a pledge of birds, and not a child in any cage, no man or woman in a ditch. Surely what we meant was to anoint some other god, one made of wind and starlight, pulsing, heart that matched the human heart. Surely that God watches us now, one eye in the river, one eye where the river was. And this will be my last poem. This is the title poem. It's a little one. I don't think I have to. I hope I don't have to say anything about it, but it's both for my my grandmother in a way, and for my soul. Let me say it. Little song for the one afraid. Oh, beloved, oh, afraid of the blood-stained dark spot, ticking clock, of what has shone in your life like luck, too bright to last. Oh, fortunate, who slipped the licked stones glittering into your pockets, spread your arms, and dreamt your ghost wings would unfurl from your bony shoulders, angel bones, and that the sky would hold you up and love a tree from which you swung. O branch, you called your father's name. O bird who sang your mother's song. O little sweeper of the world, whose life inside my life has burned. Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here and for being. And thank you, Collin Kelley. My love always.
Thank you, Cecilia. That was really beautiful. I love those. I love the work. The new stuff is just spectacular.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for
If I could just
sharing it
find a
with us.
publisher.
Well, you know, the ongoing misery of being a poet. So if everybody else can come back on, you can turn your cameras on. And we'll see if there's, I think we have a couple of questions in the Q&A here. Let's see. Patrick Edmondson says, love to hear Rupert. So Rupert, thumbs up to you. And Jill Jennings said, Theresa, I love the line, the air so thin I forgot my name for months. What could be better? It's a great line. It's a great line.
Thank you.
So are there more, if there are more questions, please put them in the Q&A. You'll see it down there at the bottom of your screen. You can put additional questions in and we'll answer them here for you.
I see that. I never saw that before.
Yeah.
Well,
Something new.
I think that Theresa mentioned it, but it may be a good place to start that, you know, she was supposed to have a collection that came out right as the pandemic hit. And, you know, how has that kind of made you maybe go back and look at those particular poems, that particular collection? You know, have you all kind of maybe reassessed what you were working on or what you immediately started during the pandemic in the past few years and maybe looking at it a different way now?
Yeah, I had a very weird space where so much was happening. So like so much was happening that the events were like clicking off, and I was like, I already wrote that poem. I already wrote that poem. I already wrote that poem, right? So I kind of got into this space of I think I was like major league depressed. But functional, because you know when you're a black woman in America, you gotta go to work wherever the work is. Functional, but still depressed. So I think what kind of clipped for me, it wasn't until 2021 when you know the white people went and tore up their own house, and I cut my hair off because I was like, that's a lot, and I feel like I've been holding so much stuff on me that I had to get it off. And you know, I cut my hair. I made my kids do it because I bought diapers. But it was that it's like I didn't realize that my neck hurt for years. I didn't realize that my posture had changed because of the weight of my hair. I slept for 12 hours straight to the point of Zion like putting mirrors under my nose, making sure I was still alive. I was exhausted. I was exhausted. I was in pain, and I was holding it in my body. And so I, you know, when I cut that away, that helped me like where I could like actually re-look at what I had written in the past and what I was going to put out in the world, and this like clever little idea that I had to like, and in every poem, some form of dirt is going to show up, and you just got to figure out where you're going to weave it. And then I had to get like go and revisit it and figure out what that collection actually is. And you know, when I came up with dirt, it was like this idea of, you know, I mean, every family has their dirt that they don't show people, right? Things you sweep under the rugs, things you pretend are not happening. But then to find yourself in actual dirt where we are seeing all these things happen and we're pretending, or not. I don't even think I don't think we're pretending. I think people who are really conscious about what's happening in the world, who are engaged, know what's happening, but you feel kind of like you can't fix it, right? You can't save it. You know, a poem is not going to save the world, right? But also getting back into like performing in front of actual people and having the symbiotic relationship that evolves from sharing poetry in person, and having people actually acknowledge that something you said made something in their day better, or made them think about a thing that made us community. That's the hopeful in my prose and in my poetry, right? I want to have those conversations. I want to share those stories. But it, like, for a minute I was just like, fuck it, I ain't writing nothing else because everything's gonna burn. But also thinking that if everything's gonna burn, some shit can burn beautiful, right? And if I can like connect with people in a way where they feel a little bit lighter about like the lightness that I feel now, a little bit lighter about everything that's going on just for a minute. I mean, it's not going away, but at least you can have that minute of breath and that respite to like recharge or regenerate or rethink. And so I've reconstructed the book, so it looks a little bit different now, and I'm gonna give myself grace, and I will shop it to people who may or may not want to publish my ass, but you know, push come to shove, I will self-publish and see what that looks like, right? So yeah, so dirt has changed into different things because oh my God, we are all so dirty and traumatized, all of us. But yeah, I hope I answered the question. If not, rambled a whole lot. I do.
Great ramble.
You answered a lot of questions. Thank you, Theresa.
Thank you.
And I think when you said it's like sometimes the delay is good. Sometimes we're precipitous, I think, in terms of we just want something out there. We want to be finished with it. We want it to be published. And sometimes, I don't know if I've told you guys this, but I was having dinner with Ilya Kaminsky and Katie once, and Katie was ribbing Ilya about the fact that there had been 14 years between his two poetry collections, between Dancing in Odessa and Deaf Republic. And, you know, Ilya being Ilya was laughing, and he said, I wish it had been even longer than 14 years. Think how much better the poems would be.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Always
and
was.
so I try to remind myself of that. And then, yeah, this manuscript I've reconfigured because I don't know, like everybody says, oh, I love it, but I can't publish it right now. And I was like, And so I've, you know, written some new poems, and I've also, my perspective changed because of all that isolation, which was actually not bad for me. I'm one of those people who had a pretty good, you know, pandemic or a pretty good lockdown period. But, you know, things shift and your awareness shifts. And then I was 40 miles from the border of Ukraine when Russia invaded. So that shifted my perspective on the poems in the collection that are about my family history in that area. So it can be subtle. It can be like a subtle shift, like a lens, you know, something coming into focus. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and
I'm waiting for your next collection, Theresa. So
out.
get on it.
Here's the cool thing. So like how I always think the world is so small. We think it's like, oh, it is huge, but it's also small.
Mhm.
So we're using Deaf Republic in the NEA Big Read because people who ban books don't actually read the book. They look at the titles and then they go, oh, Deaf Republic. We can't like ostracize deaf people. So we'll let that go. But if they had actually read the book, they would have totally banned the book. So as a teacher with 7 Stages, we've been working with different groups using Deaf Republic for the kids to create artistic response. And we just finished with Spelman College. And
Great.
these young women, oh my God, the work that they are going to bring out of responding to the poetry for Deaf Republic is so amazing. When it comes, I'm gonna let y'all know when it happens because it's an event that everybody can go to on Spelman on the campus. But like getting to work with young people who are dealing with literary stuff, but also getting to work with poetry and making it movement is so awe-inspiring and so balming. You know, it's like I see them and I'm like, I have hope that the world doesn't suck. Why is it dark? It's 6 o'clock. Anyway, but yeah, so it's like the world is so small, and you know, I love being able to bring his work into those spaces where they may not have necessarily come into contact with it. And I think that's the symbiosis of being an artist, able to move in different spaces, in different places, and figure out how to connect things that don't normally seem to connect, but they should automatically connect, right? But yeah, no, that was beautiful. Oh, I'm having a happy moment. The world does not suck in this moment. Thank you.
No, we love your moments.
Sharon Strange, who we all love, who's a fantastic poet.
I love Sharon Strange.
She's asked a question, and she says, and y'all have already been kind of talking about this. What significant changes have you all noticed in your work of late? Does it correlate with certain things going on, like right now? Rupert or Julie, you want to jump in?
I've just been like working off my phone notes so much. You know, I was just like, wow, you know, how far behind times can I be that I have all these, you know, beautiful journals, these alligator skin or, you know, whatever journals that I've bought or people have given me, but just like keeping track of these like brilliant ideas. They may or may not be brilliant the next day, but, you know, using my phone a lot. But as far as what's going on right now, yeah, there's like I saw a picture today of it's like a mugshot. This 75-year-old friend from E-Church, you know, who was at the Cop City, you know, was part of the blockade there. So
I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, Lorraine.
Yes,
Lorraine, right?
Lorraine, of course.
Stay getting arrested. Stay getting
Oh my
arrested
God.
for the cause.
Her birthday is like 1 month away from mine, right? And she's having a mugshot. I'm going like, what have I done for myself? Wait. She's down there getting her, you know.
And what I love about her mugshot is she's so short that you only see like from her nose up.
No. It had her bed number. She's got a fucking bed. Number 8. She's in bed 8.
Lorraine's been arrested a lot lately. So
the grandmothers for peace stay getting arrested. They love it.
Yes. Lorraine has been out there, so
eating bologna sandwiches. Oh my God. But like her birthday is like right on my birthday, you know, pretty close. I was like, whoa. Anyway, good question.
Julie, did you want to chime in there?
Ooh, I mean, how do you answer that question succinctly, right? You really can't. And so I'll kind of jump in a little bit to what Cecilia and Theresa were saying earlier, because, Mother Mary was, of course, a pandemic book. Slide to Unlock was a pandemic book. It came out, March 13th, 2020. And this whole book, I could not have known what kind of world it was going to come into. And it's all navigating these poems and spaces about intimacy that's touch without touch. So what's happening to our levels of connection because of screen culture, right? And then it comes into this world that is completely upended from what I thought it was going to come into. And then all of the book launch events were virtual. And so I was reading in spaces where I wasn't touching other people and hugging other people. So when I finally, and this is, after years of Java Monkey and Decatur Book Festival, and then I finally got to the place where I was like, okay, I had been invited to do an in-person reading, and I got up and I couldn't do it at first. I was like, y'all, to be able to have these poems like come through the body, into the breath, out into the world, and then being able to see in person your response, to see your laughter, to see your tears, to see your connection with it. It was overwhelming, completely overwhelming. And so I think all of that really sort of drove the next chapter for me, which was really interesting, because Dustin Brookshire and I just co-edited the Dolly Parton poetry anthology, which was a complete departure. And then now I'm working on another manuscript, and I find it's all based in touch, based in presence, right? In a way that Slide to Unlock could not have been. So I think that's just kind of been turning in my mind and looking at sort of our experiences of intimacy and how that happens within the body and accountability, but then also how that also translates globally and translates into our relationship and our understanding of history and our social conditioning, and it goes on and on, right? So
Right.
Julie, you said something that's like, it's Theresa touched on it too, I guess. It's like, what kind of world will this work be born into? It's not only what kind of world gives birth to this work, but what kind of world will the work, and I think there's a lot of feeling, or I don't know, I don't think it's just me, that, you sometimes think, well, who's even going to be reading in 50 years, let alone reading poetry, that, but I guess poets have worried about that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for
Collin,
those
you want to say
questions,
anything
Sharon.
about this?
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a new collection, a new and selected, coming out in the spring. And it's been, it was in progress during the pandemic. And I think I've said this pretty much to everyone. I've had it on my blog and all of that this is going to be my last collection of poetry for a while, because I feel like I've kind of come to the end of a journey with poetry, and the kind of poetry that I was writing. And I'm ready to jump back into some fiction and doing some other things. I'm going to be editing another anthology that I can't tell you anything about yet, but next year. So I'll still be doing poetry and connected to poetry in a way, but I kind of feel like I'm kind of at the end of a long, like 30-year journey with the poetry and the story that I've been telling. And this collection, which is, although it's a new and selected, it's sequenced like a brand new collection, because I've interspersed the old with the new to form a new narrative. And that narrative is rooted in the AIDS crisis, which a lot of us have kind of forgotten about as other things have kind of gone on. But not me. And I lost a lot of family and lovers and friends to AIDS. And so this book is a tribute to them. And I think it really is. It's kind of, like I said, it's putting a period at the end of a really long sentence that I've been writing for 30 years. And I'm excited. I'm ready to get the book out. If I can get the last little bits of it together and we get the cover finished, it'll be almost ready to go. So April next year.
Great. Oh, so April 2024.
April 2024, yeah.
Okay, let's talk.
Yeah,
we'll
it sounds
talk
great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wonderful. Thank
I
you.
feel like, during the pandemic, I started like focusing more on my fiction writing. I mean, Colin's the only person I've been low key writing this like romantic, very gay novel thingy. I think Colin is the only person I've shared parts of Adventures in Cheyenne with, and his only comment is like more sex, and I'm like, oh, okay. So
Well,
learn how to
that's
write.
always my response.
I've been gravitating to other forms of writing, and as you know, it's like I also started getting back into my artsy craftsy self, because it's just like sometimes, like, again, because I spent a whole 2 years being like, I've already written that poem, I've already written that poem. Let me make a tiny house. Yes, everything is big. Let me get small so I can focus on what I need to focus on and not worry about all this crazy shit that I can't control. And, to be a mediocre white man in America, Jesus, that is not my lot in life. But if it were, I would rule everything. Anyway, but like, so my mediums have changed so much, but I enjoy doing all the things that I'm doing. But for me, it was like one of those things where it's like, you got to finish dirt. You started it, you got to finish it. So even though this other novel is kind of progressing in a good way, I think, there is more sex, Colin. I've been researching, but like I feel like as writers, I mean, we are poets, but we are writers, right?
Right.
I think it's our prerogative to venture wherever we want to go with our words.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for your new collection. Yeah. And I can't wait for the fiction because also I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready to get it out there. So I'm ready to get this book of poetry out because I feel like I can't do anything else until this book of poetry is done and out and it's off my plate and I can move on to the next thing because I am really ready to move on to the next thing. So April, I'll be there. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody who listened, who's still here listening. Thank you, Georgia Center for the Book. Joe, Allie, for hosting as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good
All
night.
right.
Bye.
Bye.